The rain tapped against my apartment window in Brooklyn, creating that soothing rhythm that always made me feel both melancholy and strangely at peace. I sat cross-legged on my worn couch, a cup of chamomile tea warming my hands, as I stared at the travel magazine spread open before me. Iceland. Those ethereal blue lagoons. The dancing northern lights. Waterfalls cascading down ancient volcanic formations. It seemed like another world entirely, one that existed for other people. People with money. People with freedom. People who weren't living paycheck to paycheck like me. My name is Elijah Santiago. 28 years old, working as a barista at an indie coffee shop by day and freelance graphic designer by night. Let's just say my bank account rarely saw 4 digits. And international travel? That was the stuff of dreams. But dreams had always been important to me. I carefully tore out the page with the image of the Blue Lagoon and pinned it to my vision board, a cork board hanging above my desk, already covered with images that represented everything I yearned for in life. A small house with a garden. Financial stability. And increasingly, Iceland. Someday. I whispered to myself, running my fingers over the glossy image. Somehow. My friends thought I was slightly obsessed. Maybe I was. I'd check flight prices to Reykjavik weekly, knowing full well I couldn't afford them. I followed dozens of Iceland photographers on Instagram. I even started learning basic Icelandic phrases through a free language app. Dude, why don't you just save for a weekend in Miami instead? My roommate Marcus would say. At least that's realistic. But something about Iceland had captured my soul. The raw, primal nature. The sense of standing at the edge of the world. The idea of being somewhere so completely different from the concrete jungle I called home. Each night before sleep, I'd close my eyes and visualize myself there. I could feel the cool mist of Skogafoss waterfall on my face. I could hear the crunch of volcanic rock under my hiking boots. I made it so real in my mind that sometimes I'd wake up surprised to find myself still in my tiny Brooklyn bedroom. It was a particularly brutal Tuesday in March when everything changed. I'd been up late finishing a design project, overslept, then got caught in a downpour on my way to work. My sneakers squished with every step as I entered the coffee shop, already 20 minutes late. Morning sunshine, said Zoe, my manager, with a raised eyebrow. Despite her sarcasm, she was the best boss I'd ever had, patient, funny, and surprisingly understanding. I'm so sorry. I began. But she just waved me off. Just get your apron on. We're slammed. The morning rush was particularly intense. A line stretched to the door as impatient New Yorkers waited for their caffeine fix. By noon, I was exhausted, and we'd run out of oat milk twice. Hey, Zoe said during a rare quiet moment. There's a sale at that outdoor gear store on 5th Avenue. Everything's like 60% off. Didn't you mention you needed a new backpack? My current backpack was falling apart at the seams, the victim of daily subway commutes and occasional weekend hikes in the Catskills. Still, I hesitated. I should probably save the money. For what? That trip to ice wherever you're always talking about, she teased. Iceland, I corrected with a small smile. And yes. Every dollar counts. Zoe rolled her eyes. A good backpack will last years. Consider it an investment in your future adventures. Something about her words struck me. An investment in future adventures. Maybe she was right. After my shift, I made my way to the store. The place was packed with people hunting for deals, but I moved purposefully to the backpack section. And there it was, a high-quality 65-liter hiking backpack in a deep blue color that immediately reminded me of Icelandic glaciers. Original price, $280. Sale price, $112. Still a splurge for me, but as I tried it on, adjusting the straps to fit my frame, I could almost see myself wearing it while trekking across Icelandic landscapes. Perfect fit, said a friendly sales associate named Danny, according to his name tag. Going somewhere special? Iceland, I said without hesitation. Someday. Man, I went there last year. Most magical place I've ever seen. His eyes lit up. Hey, did you know we're running a contest? Every purchase enters you for a chance to win a trip. I laughed. What are the odds, right? Hey, someone's gotta win, he shrugged. If you've been visualizing this trip as much as it sounds like you have, maybe the universe is listening. I blinked at him, surprised by his comment. He smiled. I'm into all that manifestation stuff too. My grandma was from Puerto Rico and always taught me about the power of clear intention. As he rang up my purchase, he explained that the store had partnered with a travel company specializing in adventure tourism. The grand prize was a 10-day trip for one to a destination of the winner's choice, with several locations to select from. Iceland was on the list. Make sure you keep your receipt and register the purchase online, Danny advised, handing me the bag with my new backpack. Winners announced in 3 weeks. I thanked him, appreciating his enthusiasm but not getting my hopes up. Contests were for lucky people, and luck had never exactly been my strong suit. But as I headed home on the subway, backpack on my lap, I closed my eyes and allowed myself to imagine winning. Just for the sweet feel of it. The call informing me I'd won. The disbelief. The joy. I am going to Iceland, I thought to myself. Somehow, some way, I am going. The following weeks passed in their usual rhythm of work, side gigs, and occasional moments of creativity and connection. I had almost forgotten about the contest entirely. Then, on a quiet Sunday afternoon while I was sketching at my desk, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I almost didn't answer, assuming it was spam. But something made me pick up. Hello, is this Elijah Santiago? Asked a cheerful female voice. Yes, speaking. Hi Elijah. This is Courtney from Adventure Outfitters. I'm calling with some exciting news about our Travel Dreams contest. My heart skipped a beat, but I tamped down the surge of hope. Probably just calling all contestants with some promotional follow-up. I'm pleased to inform you that you've won our grand prize trip. Congratulations. Time seemed to stop. The sounds of Brooklyn traffic outside my window faded away. I'm sorry, what did you say? My voice sounded strange, distant. Courtney laughed. You won, Elijah. A fully funded trip to the destination of your choice from our partner list. Your entry was selected from over 15,000 submissions. I gripped the edge of my desk, suddenly dizzy. Are you serious? This isn't a prank? Completely serious. We'll need you to come to our main store for verification and to select your destination. When would be convenient? Iceland, I blurted out. I want to go to Iceland. There was a pause, then another light laugh. That's definitely one of our destinations. Why don't we go through all the details when you come in? We scheduled a time for the following day. After hanging up, I sat in complete shock for several minutes, then burst into tears. Not sad tears, tears of overwhelming disbelief and gratitude. Tears that came from somewhere deep. Somewhere that I'd always believed despite all rational evidence to the contrary. I called Marcus first, who hooped so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Then my parents, who were cautiously excited, warning me to make sure it wasn't some kind of scam. Then Zoe, who just kept saying, I told you so. Didn't I tell you? Investments in future adventures. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what Danny had said at the store. About the universe listening. About my years of visualization. Was it really possible? Had my constant focus on this dream somehow helped bring it into reality? Or was it just random luck? Either way, I was going to Iceland. I lay awake until dawn, watching the play of light change on my ceiling, feeling like my life had suddenly shifted onto an entirely different track. At the Adventure Outfitters flagship store the next day, everything was confirmed. The prize was real. 10 days in Iceland, with flights, accommodations, and even some guided tours included. I could hardly believe what I was hearing as Courtney, a marketing manager with a bright smile, walked me through the details. "We'll need you to sign some paperwork, and we'd love if you'd share your experience on social media with our hashtag, but otherwise, this trip is yours to enjoy however you'd like." As she handed me a folder of information, Danny appeared from the back of the store. "I heard our Iceland dreamer won," he exclaimed, giving me a high five. "See? I told you the universe was listening." Later, as I walked through Washington Square Park clutching my folder of travel documents, I felt like I was floating. Cherry blossoms drifted through the air, and the late afternoon sun bathed everything in a golden glow. I found an empty bench and sat down, opening the folder again just to convince myself it was real. Flight confirmation. Hotel reservations. A detailed itinerary that included all the places I'd dreamed of visiting. An elderly woman sitting nearby noticed my expression and smiled. "Good news, young man?" "The best," I replied. "I just want a trip I've been dreaming about for years." She nodded, wisdom in her eyes. "Not surprising. What we focus on expands. What we imagine, we create. Do you really believe that?" I asked. "I've lived long enough to see it happen too many times to doubt it," she said simply, then returned to feeding the pigeons gathering at her feet. The weeks leading up to my departure were a blur of preparation. I requested time off work. Zoe was enthusiastically supportive. I researched Iceland extensively, making lists of places to see beyond the organized tours. I broke in my hiking boots, walking miles around New York City with my new backpack loaded with books for weight. The night before my flight, I stood before my vision board. The image of the blue lagoon that I'd torn from that magazine years ago was faded now, its edges curled. Next to it were other Iceland photos I'd added over time. Waterfalls. Glaciers. The colorful houses of Reykjavik. I touched each image gently, a ritual of gratitude. "Thank you," I whispered, feeling slightly foolish but deeply sincere. Thank you to whatever forces had aligned to make this possible. Luck. Coincidence. The universe. God. Whatever name fit, I was grateful. And then, I was there. Stepping off the plane at Keflavik Airport, the crisp, clean air hit my lungs with an invigorating freshness I'd never experienced in New York. The terminal was modern and sleek, with large windows showcasing the stark, beautiful landscape beyond. I made it, I whispered to myself, blinking back unexpected tears. I actually made it. The first few days were a sensory overload. The guided tour took us to the famous Golden Circle route, Ingvellir National Park, where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates were visibly pulling apart, the geothermal area in Hakadalur with its erupting geysers, and the magnificent Gullfoss waterfall, where rainbows danced in the mist. But it was on the fourth day, during a free day without the tour group, that I had the moment I'll never forget. I'd hired a small local guide named Isaac to take me to some less touristy spots. We drove for hours along the southern coast in his rugged Jeep, the landscape constantly shifting from black sand beaches to mossy lava fields to towering mountains. "There," Isaac said suddenly, pointing to a narrow path that I would have completely missed. "A hidden waterfall. Not in guidebooks." We hiked for about 20 minutes, the sound of rushing water growing louder. Then we rounded a corner, and I stopped in my tracks. A waterfall cascaded down a perfect circle of stone, creating what looked like a curtain of water. The setting sun hit it just right, creating a rainbow that arced completely through the falling water. It was like something from a fantasy movie. "Locals call it Gatterfoss," Isaac said quietly. "The Gateway Falls. Some say if you walk through the water, you step into your true self." I looked at him, wondering if he was making up a story for the tourist, but his weather-worn face was serious. "Can we?" I gestured toward the falls. "If you wish. The water will be very cold." I didn't hesitate. I secured my camera in my backpack, took a deep breath, and approached the falls. The roar of the water was deafening now. Spray dampened my face and clothes. And then, I stepped through. The shock of the icy water took my breath away. For a split second, I was completely disoriented, water pounding on my head and shoulders with surprising force. Then I was through, standing in a small cave-like space behind the waterfall. The world looked different from here, the landscape framed by the curtain of falling water. The sunlight fractured into thousands of tiny rainbows. The sound created a cocoon around me, blocking out everything else. I closed my eyes and felt a profound sense of presence wash over me. Here I was, Elijah Santiago from Brooklyn, standing behind a secret waterfall in Iceland, a place I had no logical reason to ever expect to visit. Yet somehow, against all odds, I was here. In that moment, I understood something that would change my life forever.